Thank you guys so much for being on time. This is great. So we're going to start off today. We're talking about positive framing, specifically challenge and live in the now. Before we get started, I just want to say that today I'm co-leading with the wonderful Miss Rosie. Wow. We talked about how I was going to have snap so people would like snap from their bed.
It wasn't necessary.
All right, so if you're not already sitting in your group of three, please sit in your, make sure you're sitting in your group of three. All good? So we're going to get started with the do now. We're going to be watching a video of Shayna teaching reading comp, and you're going to hear a little bit of Portia in the background narrating as we are watching. And as we watch the video, we're going to reflect on these two questions. Tamara, can you read them for us, please?
What was the impact on learning and culture in the classroom? What was the impact on learning and culture in the classroom?
Yep, but here with the first one too.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
How did Shayna get over her hands when she asked the question the second time?
Yep. Okay, so we're going to watch the video. Kim, do you hit the lights maybe?
With my view. And what are the ways that we harm features? Who has the straightest, tallest vertical hands, tall sweatshirts. And for a couple more hands in the air and down. Team.
Have you ever seen which, whether girls or boys can do faster and with your biggest smile?
Whoa, that's a big challenge.
Don't get tricked. Let's see. How do we harm girls? Wait for my cue.
I'm looking for those smiles too.
And stop.
All right, so take 1 minute to independently reflect on those two questions. All right, I'm going to bring us back. We'll take 1 minute in a partner share. So actually, you guys are in your little groups of three, so go ahead and share in your group of we're going to do just a 1 minute whole group share now. We'll start with the first question and then move on to the second. Actually, you know what? Let's just go right to the second question. What was the... No. Pause. We're going to start with the first question. How did Shayna get more vertical hands when she asked the question the second time? Steph.
Redo is a really fun challenge.
Redo with a fun challenge. Awesome. Can anyone actually, can you just be more specific? What exactly did she say was the challenge?
Boys versus girls, and then made it even more fun by telling them to smile and being fun and warm as hell.
Yeah, which is I think the important part there is boys versus girls in December can be really okay, again we're challenging them this way, but to add that fun component of a bright smile, they were really excited to do it. Anything else? Go ahead.
It seemed like the second time she slowed down the question, which probably helped more scholars to understand and process the information.
Cool, good noticing. And then what was the impact on learning and culture in the classroom? Smith?
They all wanted to participate.
Yes, that was great. Did anyone notice what happened 2 to 3 seconds before she gave the second cue for hands? Teacher. Yeah, they were she was wait, no, wait for my cue. They were all I want to be part of this, I want to answer this. So in that clip, Shayna effectively used challenge and live in the now to increase scholar engagement in the lesson and in the learning. So we're going to flash back for a moment to summer PD and our friend Wade. So over the summer, we built skill in using proactive management strategies in drill-based practice. Much like how Dwayne Wade still practices the fundamentals of dribbling the basketball. We watched that training video over the summer. So today we're going to revisit that skill-based practice, that drill-based practice, to grow our skill in two components of positive framing: challenge and live in the now. So you may be thinking at this point, why are we coming back to positive framing? Of the 49 taxonomy techniques, why are we coming back to this one? And Rosie and I actually chose this for 3 specific reasons. The first one I'm going to flash up there, you guys can read it. Yeah, so we just finished our first round of TCP observations, and we noticed a trend that positive framing is an area of growth across our school. So we're prioritizing time today to work on building the skill. The second reason we're coming back to it is because of winter break. So I'm going to actually throw this one back on you guys. Why do you think it's important, as we hold high expectations, why do you think it's important that we're using positive framing, particularly the week right before and right after a long winter break? Gina?
It sure is easy in the last week before we're going to the holidays to just yell and scream at them, or be like, it's December and you're still not sitting with your hands to your sides. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. So it's easier to
It's real. It's real.
It's real. So it's easier to, like, if we have it positive, it keeps everything really happy and light before we let them go.
Yeah, so 2 weeks off from, Jamie, go ahead.
I was also going to say that I feel like when we leave them for that amount of time, we don't want the last thing they remember to be like, today was horrible. And I always actually feel like a guilt if Friday doesn't go well, because I'm like, that's what they remember on the weekend, and that's what like they're going to tell their parents all weekend. So that, you know, so before the break, I just feel like it's important that they remember that they liked school, so that when they come back, it's less work for us.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you guys
That's
for
what I
sharing.
love.
Yeah, so 2 weeks off from school for our scholars means 2 weeks away from routines, procedures, and our habits. So as we think back to scholars return, or we think ahead to scholars returning in January, we want to make sure that we're reinvesting scholars in our habits and that we're maintaining and building on the strong classroom cultures that we set place in the beginning of the year. And one way to do that is through the use of positive framing. And then the last reason we're coming back to it today is this idea of joyful rigor, which Tracy Epp talked about during her opening on day of practice 2. So as the school year progresses, content is getting harder and harder. And positive framing is one way for us to ensure that as we dive deeply into rigorous content, we're also keeping joy and fun front and center in our classrooms. So that's why we're coming back to this today. And that brings us to our aims for this session. Yohan, can you read them for us, please?
Sure thing. Grade teachers will be able to practice positive framing by applying challenge and live in the now statements in drills. Write their own challenge and live in the now statements for 2 different scenarios. Practice writing fun and joyful challenge statements, and leverage the strengths of their teammates by giving and receiving feedback during the drills.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rosie to set us up for our drills.
Cool, let's get started. Before we actually dive into practice though, let's take the next 30 seconds to just look at our overview of today's 3 drills and our practice sequence. It's on page 3 in your handout.
Maybe not a 10.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of work there. All right.
I'll go to my All right. So the first thing you notice is there's 3 rounds of drills. And in all 3 rounds, there are 3 roles: teacher, scholar, and coach. Round 1, we're going to be sticking to a script as we build our skill. In rounds 2 and 3, though, we've differentiated, and the rigor is going to be increased because we'll be writing and practicing our own challenge and live in the now. One thing you're going to notice about today's drills is they are super fast-paced and snappy. Our goal here is to get as many at-bats as possible so we can rapidly build our skill. In rounds 2 and 3, you're going to notice we're going to be dinging a bell to signal when the role should change. I'm just going to name, I know not everybody's crazy about the sounds of a dinging bell, but it's just a way to hold ourselves and each other accountable to really maximizing our practice time. So, Picture me from the holiday party last Friday. What can I say? So I'm going to start round one. I'm going to start by modeling round one. But before I do that model, let's take 30 seconds to acquaint ourselves with the salmon feedback cheat sheet. Because after my model, one second, that was my bad. Because after our model, I'm going to be calling on 2 or 3 friends just to share out like what elements of challenge and live in the now you saw at work. All right, 30 seconds. All right, I'm gonna put my teacher hat on. Feel like I'm about to do the Dougie. And get started. I'm gonna be using the exact script as you'll be using in round one. Teacher hat on. We're ready to transition. 1, hands on side of chair. 2, push back chair. Team, we push chairs back silently and safely. Push them back in. I want to hear which side of the room can do it more silently, the left side or the right side. Get ready. 2, push back chair. Team, both sides push back silently and safely. I think that was a tie. Nice work, team. End scene. Thanks. So let's get started with you actually practicing the fun stuff.
Can we have him call out?
Oh my goodness. Yes, Jenny. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, what elements from the feedback cheat sheet did you see at work in the model? Either in challenge or live in the now? Yeah, David.
It was good formal register, like when you redirected, when you said the team, we push back chairs silently and safely.
Tisha?
You were seen looking.
Okay, be seen looking. Cool. And Kevin, last one.
It's just a challenge within groups of the class first, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now, let's fast forward and dive right into our first round of practice. In this round, there's 1 teacher, 1 student, and 1 observer. The role of the observer is to watch and learn from the teacher who's practicing. We're going to use the script exactly as it's written, and there's no feedback this round. Again, the goal is to move as quickly as we can and get as many at-bats in that 5 minutes. All right, let's get started. 5 minutes.
That was a tie.
Nice job. Nice job in round one. I just actually wanted to shout everyone out because you guys jumped right into practice and there was like really very little talk about setup, which is great because then we were able to maximize the time. So great job. So we're going to dive into round two of the drill now. This is going to be differentiated practice and we're increasing the rigor. This time we're going to spend 2 minutes reading the scenario on page 5, and for the given scenario, you're going to write your own challenge and live in the now statement. I want us to stretch ourselves to be as creative as possible so that we can make these fun for our kids. So that's sort of like, you know, the point the week right before, the week right after break. Well, I mean, we always make it fun, right? But specifically during those times when, like as Gina mentioned, it can get a little dark. So we're going to take the next 2 minutes now to read the scenario on page 5 and write our own challenge and live in the now. 2 minutes to do that. About 30 seconds left. Seconds. All right, so now we're going to jump into round 2 of the drill. The practice setup is going to be one teacher, one scholar, and this time a coach. You're going to use the script as written, and then you'll practice your own challenge and live in the now that you created. The coach is going to give feedback, rounded from the feedback cheat sheet. Try and keep your feedback just to 2 sentences so we can make sure that everyone gets a chance for the practice time. So the practice cycle is going to be 1 minute of teacher practice time, 1 minute of feedback time from the coach, and then you're not going to do it again. You're not going to implement. So 1 minute of practice, 1 minute of feedback. So 2 minutes per person. After the first 2 minutes, I'm going to ding the bell, and that means we'll swap roles, and you'll just sort of do that in your groups. I'll do that every 2 minutes so that everyone has a chance. Cool? Good to go?
You finish before the time?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you finish before the time, yes, I would go back and do it again. Like the whole idea here is just creating automaticity and muscle memory. So it's like, you know, Monday morning, we're just doing it all over the place. Cool? All right, so I'm going to start for the first 2 minutes. We can start that now. That's not what soccer is about. guys, so I tried to speed up the last two a little bit more. So, take it away, Rosie.
All right, we're going to take a little break after our 2 great rounds of practice to do a whole school brain dump. Ooh, wait, no, that's just it. To do a whole school brain dump of creative challenges. As I was walking around, I heard a lot of lively and fresh examples of challenge. And so we're going to take 2 minutes to share those out. Carmen's going to capture them and then email them to the whole school team. So next week, and when we come back from break, we'll have a bank of really exciting challenges to draw from. So 2 minutes, let's share out. Let's just, I would say raise hands so we can just do it.
We have more smart hands.
Yeah.
Camila said, who's going to have the most hands, people with short hair or long hair?
Brian.
I liked what Marin said. Hers was who's gonna be faster, the people who traveled or the people who stayed home with the break.
Oh,
creative.
Trying to get creative in second grade. That's a good one.
All right. Sarah.
Andy was also creative. She did not want vertical hands. She wanted rocket ships.
Yeah, that's the way to live. Let's see the left side and the right side. How many more vertical hands? Just trying to lighten the mood, friends. Go ahead.
I like to say like who looks the most like a third grader. I would do that with second, and then when a third grader ever comes in, it's like who looks the most like a third grader. Just validate what I'm saying.
Yeah. To build off that, Stefan, you shared one, or you did one about who's the best fourth grader in training, something like that, which is like along the same lines there, but also creative and motivating for our kids. Any others?
About 20 more seconds.
None?
I always say, like, which ones look the most responsible and could handle a laptop during typing?
What? But that's good. So, like, using a challenge or using other incentives throughout the day as part of the challenge. That's smart. Gina?
We use boy bands because I could use boy bands with my team just splits up into 3, so for third grade too, but also like which Nets or Knicks fan can do it. So
sports team stands.
Time for one more.
Since we're in the science room, we could say who could do it, whatever, scholars who like the frogs or scholars who like the crabs.
Susan, you
said who grew over the break? Who grew?
Oh.
Janelle.
That's a good one for tall straight back. That's good. Awesome. Carmen, thank you for capturing this. All right, so we are going to go into our third and final round of practice. Again, it's going to be differentiated, and we're increasing the rigor even more in this one. So you will again have another at-bat with writing a challenge. I encourage you to incorporate the challenges that we just heard during our share-out. You're going to write your own live in the now, and this time there's going to be a non-compliant scholar after you've done the challenge that you'll need to fix softly and correct using the language from our cover picture. So scholar name, the word correction, and then the live in the now statement to get them back on track. So I'm going to model what this looks like now, and after I model, I'm just going to call on 2 people to share out components from the feedback cheat sheet that you saw in my model. So, turn that on. All right. Team, we're ready to transition. 1, hands on side of chair. 2, push back chairs. Team, we push back chairs silently and safely. Push chairs back in, track me. I wonder which group can push back chairs more silently. The girls or the boys? I'm listening. 2, push back chairs. Team, I heard so many girls and boys pushing back chairs silently and safely. We've been on for 2 weeks, but I knew you could do it better. Nice work, team. So 2 people to share out components from the cheat sheet. And as you're looking at the cheat sheet, you can use the bottom portion also, which is where we incorporated components of the correction.
Jenny, I just have a quick question. Are we, is the reason you and Rosie are both giving the verbal cue because we're going back to that after break? We're not doing just...
Yes, so pairing the verbal and the nonverbal after the 2-week break so that we can go back to, I mean, when I talk about reinvesting scholars, also sort of reminding scholars, like remember what we do here. So yes, the verbal with the nonverbal.
Both like the number and the direction?
Yes. I mean, if you feel like your kids don't need it, then you could just do the 1 or the 2. But yeah, ultimately, you know, you guys gather the data in your room. They don't need it, you don't need to. But yes, after the 2 weeks off, we want to provide that sort of scaffold. Like, you've been out of here for 2 weeks. Like, you know, we get it. All right. So two quick elements from the feedback cheat sheet.
Body numbers.
Go ahead.
Your stand up, square up, but then at the same time, you're exaggerating the things you did on the side.
Thanks. Go ahead.
I thought voice and tone, you both hit soft and praise loud at the end. So.
Thank you. All right, so for round 3, we just went over this, right? So we're going to go to page 6, read the scenario. You're going to have the next 2 minutes to write your own challenge, live in the now, and your correction. Seconds left. Wrapping it up in 5. And 1 coach. You'll use the script as written, and then you'll practice your own challenge, live in the now, and the correction. The coach is going to give feedback from the feedback cheat sheet. Again, try and keep it to 2 sentences so that everybody has an at-bat. If you finish early, you can go back and try with a different challenge, or try with the same challenge and implement the feedback again. The teacher, or this is the change this time, the teacher practicing will then implement the feedback this time. So it'll be 1 minute of practice, 1 minute of feedback, 1 minute of doing it again, implementing that feedback. So it'll be 3 minutes per person. So every 3 minutes, I'm going to ding. I'll probably lower that down to like 2.5 since you guys have been going through 3. So we can start with our first rotation now.
I was just thinking someone a
So we've now completed 3 rounds of our drill practice, and I wanted to have a couple of people just share out an impactful piece of feedback that you got from the coach in your group, or something you learned by watching your teammates practice. Go ahead.
All right, I'm still talking too much. So economy of language, I need to work on. I'm used to doing that a lot, but let's talk. More
Good. Ricky, go ahead.
Formal register is everything.
Mm-hmm. Like everything in
Can I
life.
elaborate?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So like attached to the economy of language, it should be like stand up, get that voice up, and then you can bring it back down to make it like fun and sweet again, but like so that they know that you need this person.
Yeah. So that I guess it's like the voice modulation, right? So like, you know, that dialing it up, dialing it back, but never turning it off. It's a great point. Which coach of yours gave you that great feedback?
I think
Oh, that's so good. Kevin, go ahead.
The urgency and the live in the now, Emily really brought out after we pushed back and it was loud. She just goes, it was just like so fast, like typing, and it was in a formal register too. So like urgency combined with formal register.
Great, Angela.
I think with that also being mindful of your pacing, like coming back after speed break, like making sure you slow down. Like I speak faster, and I'm really cognizant of when I speak fast. So just
cool.
Oh, so maybe mine was quick as king instead. Cutting it short really quickly.
And then bring it back.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
I think it's always just great to see teachers in other grades and how they do things, because it's like you often think like the common picture, but to see how it just looks so different in each grade, but how it's like age appropriate and how it's fun for that group of kids. It's just cool to like pull some things like, oh, I could use that, or to challenge them this way.
Cool. Anything else? Anyone else? Go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, I mean, just with something that's so mundane as transitioning, just having fun with it and being creative. And, I mean, like, they were having so much fun with it and being creative. And I said, like, if you have brains, or if you don't have brains.
Not brains.
Braids.
Not
Carmen, don't bring that one down.
Elephants first go, like, you can with, like, elephants, just having fun and being fresh with it just changes it, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Susan, last one. Go ahead.
Can you give me live in the now, stating what I want to see?
Yeah.
Exactly what I said.
Yeah. And I think that really goes back to your point, especially like the 4 days before the 2-week break. It's like, I know what I want to see, but I'm going to name what I don't see because I'm frustrated. So keeping that front and center next week, I think is going to be particularly important as everyone's sort of working towards, break. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Rosie. Take us home.
All right. So I'm going to close out by returning to some of our key points from earlier in the PD. We have 4.5 days of instruction left before break. Well, that smiles, of course.
Everyone's like, can we smile? I said, yeah. It's okay.
Woo! We can choose.
I'm that excited.
We can choose to be the team that cruises on autopilot, or we can be the team that maintains fun and positivity in our classrooms. Let's be the team that embraces joy and fun and really maintains scholar investment as we close out 2013. So, friends, on that note, just to finish us up, please take the next 2 minutes to fill out your feedback form. It's on the back page of the packet. Please be as specific as possible. We really strive to improve our PDs and make them as useful and meaningful as we can. You can just tear the sheet off and leave it on your table. We will pick it up after we end.
If you need more time, you're just by show of hands. Okay, we're actually 2 minutes ahead of schedule right now, so I'm going to give 30 extra seconds. you guys for being here on time so we can start on time, and also for just jumping right into practice and keeping it moving. So awesome job. And with that, I think we're going into my story.
Oh, that's me.
Do you need to plug in? Should I unplug?
Yeah.
Any announcements while waiting for
Happy hour is at Dishbach Kalda.
Where?
What?
It's the beer garden in Fort Greene.
Okay.
No.
That was the German pronunciation.
Say it again.